Well, hello, my spooky friends. It is Stacy here, breaking down the DIY fall hat tutorial that I created from the Dollar Tree. This came from my Scarecrow look that I mixed the two together. So I have a tutorial about the makeup with the hat, but this is more an in-depth tutorial because I think that someone might be out there looking for how to create a fall hat, and this fits into the fall theme and not necessarily just a scarecrow. But if you're looking for that DIY dollar store scarecrow look, I will link that into the description below. So let's just go ahead and get into it. The hat I'm using today is a felt hat that came from Target. Now Target has these hats on sale at the end of the season, and it's right in front of their store. Normally they run $5, but you can get these around $2 to $3. The other thing I think that's important to invest in is a cake pan. This is a plastic cake pan from Walmart, just a couple of dollars, and you can use your head or take a mannequin head. You can find those at the craft store, and you can put a coat of wood glue over it to make them last a little bit longer so that you could put your hat on top of the head, and it's just a lot easier to move around when you're decorating. And so I take some masking tape and I make sure to secure it onto my plaster head cast, because there's nothing worse than putting things on your hat and it falling to the floor and taking away all the hard work that you've done. Another way to get around this in a pinch, and it'll save you time and money if you don't have a plaster head cast or the means to purchase a mannequin head or wood glue, take aluminum foil and ball that up to where it fits inside the hat, and make sure you have just a small little stem up on the bottom of it and tape that onto your cake pan. The flowers and the little spritzes and sprigs I found from the Dollar Tree. And what I'm going to do with these pine cones, because I don't have pines in my yard, but I do see them on the side of the road, pull over if it's safe and pick up a couple of pine cones. Those are free. In order to make those pine cones pop off the top of the hat, I wanted to separate the color, so I'm taking water paint mixed with a little bit of yellow hairspray paint because I did not have yellow paint. Diluting that with water and taking a toothbrush and just going over the edges of that pine cone. Now I'm using water paints because they dry a lot quicker. Grease paints do not show up as well, and plus every time you touch them or it touches anything else it will transfer. Or you can use a can of spray paint, but once you do that the entire cone becomes that color. It's hard to not spray the inside where all those details come from. So I recommend just using a brush or a toothbrush to go over that. And as you see here, I wanted a different bit, more of a tinge yellow, so that all the pine cones are the same, everything ages the same. Does not age the same when it's outside. So I just went in and added a little bit more spray paint from the hair color and put that all over the other pine cones. Now these little sparkle sprigs, they come from the Dollar Tree as well, and I don't want to take care and get rid of all the sparkle. I want some of it to, especially when light hits it from the camera or lighting situations, that it does pop off, and you know, it brings the eye toward the center of the hat a little bit, which brings your eye toward the center of the makeup and down to the chest and the threads that are on the neck. So I just went through and just lightly dabbed my toothbrush and randomly go on the outside and on the other side just to make it look a little bit more earth tone and part of the elements of outside. Another option to this sprig is to actually grab some pine needles and do the same thing. Randomly put some other color on it because that's what's going to fill in gaps and raise height up onto the hat. So I wanted to use what I had, and this is what I had, but you can find this one at the Dollar Tree. I also think that small little sticks will work as well if you want to paint those a solid color like this off white yellowish looking color, or add different color to it. So I think a lot of elements outside will work for a fall hat and that are very sturdy. But before I get dedicated to gluing anything onto this hat, I'm using that small strip of leather around the top of the hat, and I'm pushing my feathers in. Now I did trim my feathers because I did not want this to look like a pirate hat or something from like Puss in Boots or something like that. So I did go through and trim these down just to give it enough height but not make it look like anything other than just a fall hat. And when I do trim things down, I start small, so I trim just a little bit and put those feathers back in to see if it works, and if I need a little bit more I trim because it's easy to take away than add to. And you will see that I'm keeping the bottom portion of these feathers, the tip and the bottom of the quill. I'm keeping that in because it gives it more security, and I can glue those together than rather gluing everything to the hat itself. When I think about a hat and using them, I go through and see how many times that I could actually reuse it. So once I get all of the things onto the hat, I take a photo of it for my reference, and then I begin to use my glue gun. And again, I'm trying to reuse this hat later on, so I'm trying to keep everything glued to each other or to the band, because I can tuck and I can take that band and cut it and reuse this hat later on. So that's my method for my madness when it comes to doing props or anything like that, is how I can use it for the look I'm going for, and then how I can repurpose it later. Because I don't know about you guys, I like to save money and I like to alleviate my time. So if I can get a product and do that, well, I've killed two birds with one stone. So now I'm going in on contact points that touch the actual stems and the flowers and putting glue onto that instead of gluing it onto the hat itself. It also stops globs of glue from dripping and looking very messy. But I just take a look at where the cone sits and touches the other objects and place that glue there and then put that onto the hat. For me, the key to making props and hats is dimension and height and color. So colors pop off one another. Use opposite colors on the color wheel. You could even do that with earth tones. And the same thing on the other side. I go in and I was not able to do anything but glue contact points onto the top of the hat because I didn't have very many items on the other side and I didn't want to use any more feathers. Tipping the cones at an angle or leaning them forward or opposite of each other is going to give you even more added dimension. So I glued on my last pine cone, making sure that I glued most of it to the leather strip in the front. Once that becomes secure, I then take the other items such as these fall leaves that I had left over from another project, and I'm building height up toward the center, filling in the gaps. And these also, when you put just a little bit of glue onto the end of the flowers and the end of the leaves, you can actually push those into the pine cones, which gives you a little bit more security. Don't be afraid to put things into small places, because that's what's going to build it up and give it more dimension and make it look really good. You got some small things that are filling in some gaps like twigs and berries and just random things. So when I go to the Dollar Tree or the dollar store, or I go into any store that might carry crafts, I always look in their clearance section, because these things will go very cheap for almost pennies, and I grab as many as I can in different colors and I just store those for projects later on. That's going to save you even more money. But it's, in my opinion, the best crafting supplies now that are being offered at dollar stores is the Dollar Tree. They have really ramped it up about the different kinds of items for crafting, so do check them out first. That would be your first place I would look before I go into like Michael's or Hobby Lobby. Here is the final project. This is what it looks like. You can see I kept everything to the front, and when I spin it around in this cake pan, things are pretty secure. Now it's time to put this on and put it into action and see what kind of stealth hat we created. So here I am in the final makeup look. This is inside my studio where I have natural lighting, and you can see some of the elements that pop off each other, so it looks good in studio lighting. Even with a little bit of glitter, it just carries the eye around the hat. I can lift it and it stays in place. And here I am outside of a cornfield that's been processed and in front of an old rusty barn, and you can see that I'm able to move my head and jerk it around so I can actually act out my beginning scene in my videos. So filming outside, it was extremely hot. I was able to take this off and put it back on. I was able to move around and act and really walk around in this scene. I think the elements went really well to be able to take the eye and lead it from the top of the hat into the makeup and down into the threads of the neck of this look. I think this is a good one to do your first time because it's randomly placing things instead of being very precise. But here is another look in a different set of lighting. This is my car lights. I just wanted to show you what it looked like with the colors, even if you had a different tone of light. And so since you've mastered the DIY fall hat or did this scarecrow look, why not hang out for this next video where I show you how to create a mask using nothing but a glue gun. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you next time. Bye.